Hello and welcome to Jolineknitsalot. This is my show about knitting and crafting and the things I get up to here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. It is late November and we got a whole lot of snow this week, which has made it a little more challenging to get around. It's not terrible. We're used to driving in snow and walking through snow, and my Corgi Blue loves it. He For a short-legged dog, he loves jumping through the snow and sticking his nose in it. So it's certainly got us in the Christmas spirit. And I'm coming to you just a little bit earlier than I normally record because this weekend I have a few festive things going on. There's a couple of craft fairs that I'm going to be attending with some different friends. I have some friends who are going to be at various craft fairs, and then I'm really hoping to decorate my house for Christmas this weekend. So I have some things I wanted to do, but I wanted to get the opportunity to talk to you first. Today I'm wearing my Eva cardigan. This is a pattern by Petite Knits, and I knit this out of some yarn, I think from San Juan Woolworks, I believe. This is yarn that I picked up at Knit City in Vancouver 1 year ago. And I knit into a lovely cardigan. And I have to say, this is a sweater that I wear a lot. I did depill it this morning because I wear it a lot. And yeah, I find it really a practical piece. I throw it on over t-shirts all the time. And it's a really well thought out pattern. It has interesting details. It's got a set-in sleeve. So it's not just a plain raglan. There are some very sort of tailored aspects to the sweater, and I really, really like it. So I can recommend that pattern, the Eva cardigan. The one thing I did have some difficulty with was the buttonholes that the designer describes in the pattern. And I did do a video on the Eva cardigan buttonholes. So if you are making the Eva cardigan and you also are finding the buttonholes a little bit tricky, maybe check out my video and see if that helps you out at all. I've been knitting a lot of socks and gifts. So let me tell you a little bit about the things that I've been knitting. The first thing I have off my needles is a pair of socks from my monthly sock club. This is some yarn that I set aside at the end of last year in bags with the month labeled on them. And then every month I pull down a bag with some surprise yarn that I put away from myself last year. The November socks were these. This is some sport weight yarn from Knitspin Farms. It's a targy base. And I knit these on 2.75 millimeter needles, and I used 64 stitches. So these are very much a man size sock. They're going in my gift basket. I'm pretty sure that these will be for one of my nephews, but we will see. And I'm really again, this yarn is so great. It knits up quickly because it's sport weight, a little bit heavier than a regular fingering weight, so that you really do see progress a lot faster than you would with some regular fingering weight yarn. The next thing I finished are a pair of slippers for my older daughter who is a dancer. Now, I made her a pair of these slippers years and years ago, and she pulls them out when she has like big shows or whatever. I think she finds them comfortable and cozy to walk around backstage in. And her pair is getting a little bit shabby, stretched out and worn out. So I made her another pair. And these are some slippers by Isolde Teague. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the pattern name because I can't, but I'll put it on the screen now. This was a pattern that was a part of her Knitworthy pattern collections one year, and I knit them that year, and I've since knit them again for my daughter. These slippers feature a thrummed sole. Thrums are, I'll show you, little bits of roving. So this is some yarn, I think that would be used for spinning, but I used it to make thrums, and you just pull off a small piece of the roving, and then you fold it in half. You fold the ends in, and then you fold it in half again. So you get like this little twist of roving. And then you knit that in with your working yarn to create these little Thrums is what they're called. And thrumming is a technique that is, I believe, from Eastern Canada, Newfoundland. It makes it for very, very cozy knits. I have seen a lot of thrummed mittens, but thrummed slippers are apparently also a thing. The pattern itself has thrums that occur around the ankle too, but I heard comments from people who knit them saying that that was just a little bit too warm, having those thrums around the ankle. So I skipped that part and just did a very plain stockinette stitch ankle with some garter stitch at the top. If I flip these inside out, you can see how how fluffy those thrums are on the inside. This is what the inside looks like. This is all those little thrums that have been knitted in, and it makes it very, as you can see this way, sort of dense sole for the foot, so that when she puts these on after dancing or running around backstage, I think she finds them sort of soft and comfortable. Anyway, I thought she could use a new pair. And so these are off the needles. They were really quite quick to knit. One of the longest things is actually making all the thrums that you need. Because you can see on the bottom of the slipper, you do need quite a few. And so I would make up a bunch and then use them, and then make up a bunch and use them. But overall, these did not take very long to make. The main yarn that I used is some Barocco, I believe it's Ultra Chunky. It's a superwash merino wool. It's soft, and I think it's great for this purpose. The thrums will give the sole of the slipper a lot of structure, and I don't think it's going to wear out anytime soon. Based on her last pair, which I'm sure I used a different yarn for those ones, but they've lasted a very long time. So my daughter has pretty small feet. Her feet are about a size 7, ladies, in US sizes. And I've tried these on and they fit me. They're, I wouldn't say they were snug, but they're not, like they're fitted to my foot. And so for her, they should be just fine. And they will stretch out as she wears them. So those are some thrummed slippers. Again, the name I have put on the screen, and I will put a link to the pattern in the show notes below if you are looking for some gift ideas. These ones, they're great. I have had a pair of them as well, and I actually wore through them because I wear them so much. But they're very cozy slippers, and I would absolutely recommend them. This is the roving that I used. I picked it up at the Fiber Nook, but a lot of knitting stores have roving. This is 100% pure New Zealand wool, and it is Corriedale wool, and this color is called Cherry Red. But I mean, you can see this was 100 grams and I have lots and lots left. So you don't actually use all that much. And if you're a spinner, you probably have some roving or unspun fiber lying around that you could use for this project. And finally, the last thing I knit was a pair of Colorwork socks. Now I have been trying to keep up with the Colorwork Cuff Club by Summer Lee, and I have finished November's socks. This is my version. I think maybe the last time I just had the yarns to show you, but this is my cuff. Now, I'm gonna get real with you here. If you look at, I'll show you this side where you don't have the beginning and end, where there's that slight jog. So I picked the colors for this sock, and actually this color here is a bright white. It is by West Yorkshire Spinners, and I think it's called Marshmallow. It's a bright white. But this color here is called Horchata, and it is not. It's like a very, very pale pink. And when I held them side by side, there was a difference. And when I show you this on camera, like up close to the bright light, you can see a difference, but it's not super obvious in person. So I don't know if it was necessarily worth the effort of getting two different skeins of yarn when really they weren't, you can't really tell. But I do this was a fun pattern to knit. Summer Lee did a great job with this particular chart. Like, all of them are great to knit, but this one's really easy to knit because it has no more than 5 stitches between color changes. So you really don't have to worry about doing any color catches or anything like that. So it's not while it looks complicated, it is not a very fussy colorwork chart to work. And then I did put a little row of colorwork blips near the toe. The main color of this yarn, or of this sock, is some Mondim. Mondim is a Portuguese sock yarn by Rostazaria, I believe. I don't know if I said that right. But I really enjoyed working with this yarn. It's got a lot of structure, and it's not like a rustic yarn. Like it's 100% wool, but it doesn't feel itchy. It's got a very nice feel to it. So if you're looking for a new sock yarn to try, I would encourage you to try this one. It's relatively inexpensive. The skein that I had was $16 for a 100-gram skein, so that's not too bad. And I have used, I think, 55 grams, so I still have most of a ball left. And actually these socks go quite nicely with my sweater that I'm wearing. But they're very sweet. I'm really happy with these, and I haven't even blocked this color work yet, and I think it looks quite good. Most of the contrasting colors I used were either from Knit Picks Stroll, or from Polka Dot Creek, who is a lovely, relatively local to me dyer who has a wide selection of color work, or of sock yarn that you can use for color work in minis or full skeins. So I do like shopping her shop when I'm looking for minis, because she's got a great selection of colors. So this is the November Colorwork Cuff Club by Summer Lee. And, I have it on not good authority. I read on her Instagram that she's working on another book. So that's super exciting. I have no idea what her second book is going to be, but her first book, as you know, is really, really one of my favorites. I've enjoyed working on it. I've enjoyed reading it. I find the patterns range from sort of beginner friendly to challenging, which is really nice. It's nice to have that sort of progression. As you become a better sock knitter, you can continue to work through the book. And I really, really love that book. So I'm looking forward to whatever Summer Lee comes up with next. So once I cast off some of these pairs of socks and gifts that I've been working on, of course I'm starting with other socks and gifts. This is the time of year I find where I work on a lot of smaller projects, because I'm trying to finish some gifts or get them off the needles, and I don't usually work on anything big like a sweater at this time. So you'll see that I have like a lot of little projects sort of on the go. The first thing I cast on was a hat. This is a hat for a friend, and I had picked up this yarn from a local to me yarn shop called Statement Junkie. The yarn, here, if I show you the skein, the ball, the cake, I'll show you the yarn. This is some yarn by Hedgehog Fibers. It's called Tweety. And what color is this? I always want to call it haze. Oh, it is haze. Oh, I got it right. And it has all of these little neps in it. And the neps are their like discards from when they have like ties from dyeing various colors of yarn. They recycle those little ends into this yarn. So it's very colorful in terms of the little neps in the tweed, but the background is a really lovely and easy to work with yarn. As you can see, I've been working on a hat. This is just a 2x2 rib hat. It's called the Hipster hat. This is a pattern by, again, who else? Petite Knits. And I've only got a few inches done, but I think you can see in the knitting how the little colors pop out. And I think that using a very plain, kind of straightforward pattern is maybe going to be best for this kind of yarn. Now there is a pattern for a hat that Vera Valimaki has been working on in this yarn, which is why I went out and bought a couple of skeins of this yarn, because I was really, really intrigued by her hat pattern, which has got cables and stuff. But that hat pattern wasn't out yet, and I really wanted to get started on a hat for a friend of mine. So the Hipster hat, again, a pattern by Petite Knit. It comes in sizes from child to adult, men's and ladies, so different head sizes, and it's a 2x2 rib, so it is quite stretchy. She uses an Italian, like an alternating provisional cast on, which uses a long tail, and I think it gives a very nice finish. The one thing I think I could be better at is when I make that cast on, when I do a provisional cast on like this one, is either using a smaller needle or being more firm with my knitting, because the way that this cast on is performed, you use it's like a long tail cast on, but it's tubular, so it's like a provisional cast on but with no waste yarn. I really like this kind of cast on because it allows you to get going and you don't have to worry about picking out that waste yarn later. But it does involve 2 rows of slipping and knitting stitches, and every time you slip a stitch, I think it stretches it out and makes it a little bit looser. So I think I should either be a bit more like snug with my knitting of those first couple rows, or I should maybe go down a needle size. We'll see when the whole thing is finished and I've folded it up. Now this hat does look quite small because it's still on a 16-inch needle, and when I stretch it out to be on a head and roll up this brim, I think probably that cast on will be just fine. But I'll show you next time when this hat's done. Again, this hedgehog fiber tweedy yarn is just beautiful, and I think that it would make a really nice plain sweater, because of the plain nature of the sweater would really allow those little neps to kind of pop out, and they are really lovely and colorful. So that's one thing on my needles. I also cheated a little bit. You know how I said I've been working on a yarn a month, and every month I pull it out at the beginning of the month? Well, guess what? I cheated and I pulled up December's yarn early because I had finished a lot of the projects I was working on and I was looking for something plain to get on the needles. So I pulled up my Christmas yarn. This again is some yarn from Knitspin Farm. So this is, I was right, some Knitspin Farm Tardy Sport, and it's called Chicken Coop on a Frosty Morn. There's a thin stripe of red coop nestled in the colors of a winter pasture: cream, yellow green, and forest green. And this yarn club that I was a part of always sent a little inspiration picture. So you can see, here's the red of the chicken coop. And this is the yarn. It did come with a contrast color and I'm using this just for heels and toes, so that I don't feel like I'm playing yarn chicken. And here's the sock. I've only got a little bit going. Again, I'm using 2.75 millimeter needles because this is a sport weight sock, so I use a heavier needle. And I'm using 56 stitches to create a sock that will fit my foot. I think these are lovely. They're kind of a very vintage Christmas look, I think. And again, I haven't gotten that much done, but that's the start of my December socks, getting ahead of the curve a little bit. And then not finally, I have 2 more things to show you. Well, not kind of. This morning, which is, I'm recording this on Thursday, which is the 28th of November, and Thanksgiving, if you live in the United States, happy Thanksgiving to you. I started the Oxbow socks because this is a challenge issued by Andrea Mowry to knit a pair of socks in a weekend. We start on the Thursday and we knit through till Monday. So I thought in previous years we had started at about 5 p.m. Is that right? Am I remembering that correctly or no? Anyway, this morning I saw that some crafters had cast on already, and so when I had a few minutes over my lunch and here and there, I have cast on my Oxbow socks. Now this is going to be really hard for you to see. I chose to do the contrast cast on. Again, this was another provisional tubular. So this project also uses a long tail tubular cast on. At least that's what Andrea calls it. And again, it is kind of like a long tail cast on, but you create knits and purls that in such a way that it looks like a tubular cast on. And then you work a couple rows and you start going in the round. So again, I feel like my cast on is maybe a little bit looser but I did it in a contrast color, and then I started the sock. This is the Oxbow sock, and it is the same pattern that she used for a few other projects. One of them was her Gib sweaters. I'm finding it a little bit tough to see in this yarn, partly I think because of the yarn and partly because of the color. It's such a deep burgundy. The yarns I'm using are an Exmoor sock by John Arbin, and it's in this deep burgundy color. So the nice thing about this sock, I think, is that it only requires a 3-inch ankle, and so because it's a shorter sock, that'll help me, hopefully help me to finish a pair of socks in a weekend. But that is what I just cast on, and I think that my other projects will probably go to the wayside until I have finished those socks. The last thing I have on my needles that you can't see are some toe-up socks. These are my Advent socks. I had purchased some Advent yarn from Woolens and Nosh, and it arrived months ago. And so it's been sitting in my stash waiting for Advent to start. And in preparation for December, I cast on the toes because I'm doing some toe-up socks for these. This is what they look like at the moment. That's the toe yarn. Hopefully that doesn't wreck it for anybody. So I have 2 toes, and I will be knitting 1 stripe a day throughout throughout December until I get to Christmas, and then we'll see how long the socks are. Because these are toe up, I will be inserting a heel when I get to that spot in the sock, and so by the time Christmas rolls around, I will probably just be working on either some cuffs or some ribbing. We'll see, but I'll let you know. I'll let you know how I get on. Now, to be very honest with you, I was going to be working on another pair of Advent socks. I had ordered some yarn by the Cozy Knitter, as I do a lot of years. I wasn't going to, and then a friend sort of reached out and asked if anyone was interested in splitting a skein, because one of the skeins of the Cozy Knitter Advent yarn has enough pattern repeats for 4 socks if you do 24 stripes in each sock. And so each skein has 48 stripes. So if you split it with a friend, you each get 48 stripes. All you have to do is wind up your yarn, split it in half after 24 stripes, and you've got yourself enough Advent sock yarn for 2 pairs of socks. So a friend and I both are going to share this skein, and we ordered it, and it was meant to ship out in November, which it did, and it got very close to me. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's sitting at my post office, but in Canada, our postal workers are on strike right now, and I do support people getting fair work environment, fair treatment, and fair wages. It's just a little unfortunate that their strike started on the very day that my Advent yarn was going to be delivered to me. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see when that yarn comes to me. If it comes to me in the next couple weeks and I can cast on and get going and work those this Advent, then I will do that. If not, then maybe I will start them on Christmas Day and I will work a stripe a day until they're done. We'll see. But it is unfortunate that that yarn isn't here, but I understand why. And it is what it is. Like I said, I think it's important that people are treated fairly in their work environment and are respected and well compensated. And so it's just unlucky that the day that the strike was called was literally the day that my yarn was meant to come to my mailbox. So I'm looking forward to getting that skein of yarn when it arrives eventually. It's just probably not going to be here before December 1st, and that's okay. So those were all the things that I have been working on. Like I said, I have a couple of craft shows that I'm going to be attending in the next couple of days. One is called the Odd Birds Craft Festival, which is taking the place of the Royal Bison Festival here in Edmonton. I'm looking forward to seeing different makers and different crafts. There is an embroidery artist who will be there this weekend, so I'm looking forward to seeing some of her works, and I believe some potters. And as I say potters, I know that I'm probably going to come home with a beautiful new mug, and there really isn't room in my cupboard for a beautiful new mug. So I'm going to have to do some soul searching on that. But I look forward to seeing the various crafts that are at the Oddbirds Festival. And then the next day I'm going to a craft fair at Fort Edmonton Park with a friend. Fort Edmonton is sort of a historical reproduction of various times in my city's history. So it starts with a fort, which is how Edmonton would have started in the fur trade here in Canada, and then it progresses through to some more agricultural times into in 1885 Street, and then it progresses 1910 Street and 1920s. So it's sort of an interesting historical place. We used to spend a lot of time there when our kids were small. We would go and ride the train and the streetcar, and they have midway rides from the 20s. It's just a fun place to be. So I'm looking forward to attending their craft show, which is taking place from November through December. There's quite a few days that you can go to attend that one. There's different vendors at different times, so I'll just see what I see when I go on Saturday, and hopefully I'll take some footage of those two craft fairs to share with you next time. I hope in the next couple of weeks you find time to do some of the things you like to do, whether that's staying cozy and out of the snow, or maybe taking part in some winter activities if it's winter where you are. I think my younger daughter would like to get skiing, so we'll see what we get up to in the next couple of weeks. I know I plan on knitting a lot. You take care, and I'll see you soon.